So welcome everyone to the Origin Weekly Community Call. If you're counting the 12 days of Christmas, I think that starts today or tomorrow, depending on where you're located. So that's your public service announcement for the day. It's been another great week for the Origin dollar, of course. It's pretty exciting. We'll get some highlights on that in a minute, along with some other announcements, and then we'll talk about any surprises from the past week, check in with Josh on how the liquidity mining campaign is going, and then for the rest of today's agenda, we got quite a few things to get through. We'll touch on sprint planning briefly. Doman's going to walk through his visual analytics dashboard. It's come along really nicely. Daniel's going to explain his proposal for strategy allocations, and then we'll discuss what we need for on-chain governance, and then look at some where we stand on integrating with other DeFi integrations. We'll check on any governance proposals that have popped up in the past week, and then if we have time, it'd be great to have anyone who's joining us for the first time or who just wants to say hi to introduce yourself and let us know what you're up to. So, unless anyone has something they want to kick it off with, I believe that Daniel had several things he wanted to take note of in the announcements.
Yes, but I've lost that document window. Hang on just a second.
Well, it starts with the current supply of OUSD, which when you typed this was 273 million. Has it gone up again since then?
I don't think it has, but that's really just an impressive number. It is just a really good sign that it continues to grow, and in fact, it went up by $40 million over the weekend, which I think is about the size of our even the first week's growth in just 2 days.
Amazing.
Oh yeah, okay, so next we're number 4 on Curve by daily trading volume, and 14th largest pool on Curve by TVL, from Josh, and we're the 5th largest lender of USDC on Compound. Again, impressive.
Yeah, congrats everyone. Lots of great work. Josh especially has been, doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes, working on weekends, leveraging relationships to get integrations and everything. So all props go to my amazing co-founder.
We're just getting started. And it's definitely a team effort. Everyone here who's contributed to the code deserves credit for building something really awesome that seems to be really resonating with people. Next item is CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko. They've been driving us crazy with their ridiculously low numbers they show. CoinMarketCap only showing $9 million for circulating supply. We're trying to get them to fix that and actually pull it from on-chain data so that can be correct. And then both CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko have been missing all of the trading volume that's been happening because they haven't been integrating any of the factory pools. Curve are helping us out with this, so they created a new endpoint overnight to combine all of their data into a single feed. So now pass that on to both CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap. So hopefully they'll integrate that, and now we can, or hopefully soon we'll be able to have our trading volume show up on those services, which will be a big deal because it adds a lot of confusion when those numbers haven't been anywhere close to correct.
Thanks for continuing to push on that, Josh. And then I wanted to say thanks to a new contributor who submitted a pull request late last week or sometime last week that makes a couple of small improvements to our DApp. It's great to get started with something small like that, and we would appreciate any additional contributions that anyone wants to make. I've linked that pull request here in the notes. And if that person is here, please introduce yourself later, maybe in 30 or 40 minutes when we get to that part of the agenda. There was one surprise, Josh, I think from your perspective.
Yeah, I think one thing we need to continue to get better at is just strategist role, moving faster. We agreed on a call last week we were going to ramp up and put majority of our funds into convex because the yields are so much higher there. And it's been a week now and we're only at 11%. So shame on us. We need to get better at this. We need to be, moving faster and not dragging our feet on getting these things signed and getting, testing it. Still being careful, but we need to follow through on what we agree to do as a team. So this is something we need to continue to get better at.
Do we have any estimation of what able to achieve with convex, or are we just guessing right now?
It's quite easy to tell because you can just look at the free pool on convex. So let me just share my screen and we can go take a look at this together.
Yeah, and I tested the site out with the stuff we're currently doing, and it matched what they were displaying. So that's a good sign that their numbers are pretty much what's real.
Can you guys see my screen here?
Yes, we can.
Great. So yeah, what we can do is we can look at the free pool on here, see what the yield is. Right, so we can look at here it is. So this is the base APY, and this is 6.57. But then what we want to do is look at analytics and see what the multiplier is from the boost. So we can go into our APY here, see we're getting about a 7x multiplier right now. So on a base of 1.4. So going from in this, you can see this moves around a bit. But imagine doing a 7x multiplier on that 6.57. So you can do the math there. It's going to be quite a bit higher than where we're at right now if we move the funds into convex. Going straight into liquidity mining update. So first thing, if you haven't seen this, Doman's put together some really great graphs for us on Dune Analytics. You can view this on Dune Analytics. There's also very embedded on our analytics page as well. But this chart here tells a pretty good story about where liquidity providers are hanging out. Pretty much everyone is on convex and going through convex instead of going to curve directly, and that's pretty evident in this chart here on where the LPs are choosing to go. We can also see if we go to bribes on curve, not much is happening here. This is basically very little activity, not a whole lot of money there. And by contrast, if we look at Bodium, which is the convex bribes, we can see the amount of activity has been growing significantly there. The good news is that the money we spent bribing CRV holders in the beginning is still, that capital is proving to be quite sticky as we predicted. So if we go here, let's see, future weight, we are down a bit. So we're down 1% on votes. So we haven't paid bribes in a couple of weeks to CRV holders. But we're still quite high up here on the amount of weight that our pool is getting versus all of these other pools. So that was money well invested. Again, it costs gas to change your votes, so people tend to stick with their votes there. Instead, we're moving our focus to Botium, like I said. Numbers here, you can see we're getting $3.28 of CRV rewards for every dollar spent on bribes. And so this is, instead of putting $1 million into LP rewards, we're basically putting $3.28 million of CRB rewards. So less OGN, higher CRB, higher APY for the LPs in that pool. And so we'll continue to track this, but there's a high probability we'll continue to be investing on Votium instead of going directly to Curve, although there may be opportunities to come back to Curve just as the competition is lower there. There's a lot of people participating here, as you can imagine. Looking at the results of how our bribes paid out, this is the snapshot for Convex. And so you can see we got 5.5% of the votes from Convex for our pool. Now, this is a bit of a lagging indicator here. So, the votes come in and it takes a little bit of time for them to actually issue those votes on Curve. So we're not going to see the APYs jump on Curve right away. Similarly, the yields on Convex are streamed to the holders there. So there's a little bit of a lag on that end as well, as far as when those rewards will actually show up for Convex stakers. Let's see. So looking at it here, we can look at where our yields are. 22.09% on OUSD right now on Convex. And then looking at Curve, we can see you can see the yields here. Really cool to see we're fourth largest pool by volume, or I guess we're fifth largest pool by volume right now. But obviously the main thing here is that the campaign's working, and I'm continuing to have calls one-on-one with other large stablecoin yield farmers and funds that are still just starting to deploy capital. So it's great to see the momentum that's building here. Any questions on all of that?
Does the Convex's 22% also include this 2.8 from Curve, right? With Convex builds out of Convex plus the ones with Curve, right?
Yeah, that's including that. Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments for Josh on liquidity mining? Let's touch on our current sprint priorities really quickly. We're in the middle of a 2-week sprint that ends a few days before Christmas. Decentralized on-chain governance is a top priority for this 2 weeks. Tom is owning the front end of that, and Daniel the contracts. We'll talk a little bit later, I think, about what we need there. So we'll come back to that one. Doman submitted a pull request to the DeFi Pulse team to add A tokens and some Convex tokens, I guess, to our adapter, so that the proper total supply, or TVL, shows up on the DeFi Pulse leaderboard and moves us further up there. Then Doman, I think you're starting pretty soon on a general solution for our strategies to be able to harvest more than one reward token. Do you have what you need on that after talking to Daniel this morning?
Yeah, Daniel got me, thanks Daniel, a bunch of useful pointers and starting points. So I'm good with, I got more than enough to start with.
Cool. And do we necessarily plan to use that to harvest CVX? I think that was the impetus for needing that project, or is that something we'll come back to?
My understanding that was the reason for the project, but maybe somebody else can chip in with more knowledge.
Yes. So for time being, our plan is to sell the CVX and reinvest it. There may be an argument to be made for holding the CVX and vote locking in and voting for our pool. but we're not going to bite that off right now just because of the added complexity to our contracts. We are, however, continuing to buy CDX and vote lock it with our corporate treasury, and we'll continue to do that to give the OUSD pool as much of an advantage as we can. I think it's definitely worth considering vote locking and having the protocol hold CDX in the future, but we're just not going to bite that off like today.
And then what about convex rewards as a sprint priority?
So for our CRV rewards, we're not currently selling. We have a proposal or in the governance system. I think it should have gotten through the time lock now. Maybe we could execute that after the meeting since both Tom and I will be online. And then at that point, we'll be selling convex reward or CRV rewards. We're blocked on selling CRV rewards besides the code side by the fact that we need the Chainlink Oracle, but they've said that Oracle will be coming online this week. So that's the status on those two.
Got it. So to recap, our convex strategy, which is earning both CRV and CVX, we're not currently liquidating either, but very soon we will be liquidating the CRV. And then when Doman's done with his project, we'll be liquidating the CVX.
Yes, although there's also a small change we can make to have a temporary way of selling the CVX as well.
Cool. All right. I think that brings us to some of the discussion topics. Unless anyone had any questions or comments on sprint planning, feel free to interrupt me and jump in. Otherwise, Doman, if you want to share your screen and walk through your progress with Dune Analytics, I know that that's been really helpful and exciting for the rest of us.
Sure. I might have issues with my connection, so if video for some reason at some point stops working, do let me know. Okay. So currently, what is live on the analytics.yousd is all the Dune graphs are on a separate page. I'm integrated that right now to the landing page. I think previous week when I showed this, there were just the APY, which only stretched out to the upgrade, I think. There was like this issue. Like some added work needed to be done to get previous events. So we got, I think, 100-day APY right now, and if there will be need, we can stretch this down even further. Then there's like the total supply with some breakdown on where our funds are. Then also how much OUSD and OGN has been bought back. So these are just how do you say that? Aggregating values. So if you go to the complete right, you get the total of OUSD and OGN bought back to this point in time. I think the total supply was also present. Not much new here.
Hey, Doman, can I stop you for a second? Will you go back to the OUSD OGN graph?
Yeah.
I might be just totally forgetting something. But what is the OUSD number? We're not buying OUSD.
It's the amount of OUSD that has been the 10% of yield, basically. It's how much yield has been turned into OGN. And so that's the reason why with the market going down and the price going down, that's why the OGN bought number is accelerating much more than the OUS. They're basically the yield that's been turned into OGN.
Thanks, Daniel, for reminding me of that, the graph that I did.
So that OUSD number in there is basically amount of yield that's been turned into OGN.
But they both represent like the same thing. That OUSD turned into that OGN. So like
Yes.
right now there's presumably very little OUSD that has not been turned into OGN at this
Correct. This
moment
is
in
the
time.
cumulative amount. So there's right now at this moment there's 10,000 or 100,000 OGN sitting in the buyback contract and very little OUSD.
Okay, cool.
Thanks for that, Daniel. Then yeah, I think the last time we already had this OUSD token holders breakdown graph. So this is by the amount of balance. Obviously, the ones here holding more than 100K balance are going to represent the larger part of the graph. But I think what is cool, I wanted to add more detail to this. So this is the same graph, just more detailed, where you can see that the brackets go up to 2 million. One nice thing with doing Dune is that you can turn stuff off here, and you can see what's the breakdown by the 0 to 70K values, or do it the other way around and see how have the whales values changed. And it's pretty cool because you can see that for example, this bracket, the one between 110K and 150K has been almost non-existent at this point, and has really increased here. And basically all of these brackets actually are getting larger from the from was it 18th or 18th or 19th November. Then we started our curve rewards. So yeah, you can turn stuff off here and play around with it to get some more control over the data. And this is a very similar breakdown with very similar brackets, but it's not broken down by balance, but by wallet counts. So right, you can see that on the 3rd of December, we had 3 people that had more. We had 3 wallets that had more than 2 million OUSD in them, and now that has moved. Today, that has moved to 5, and you can check the number of the other wallets as well and get another sense of what's happening. What's happening with their holders. Probably
Yeah, I guess
some of
one
this.
thing is missing here is that this is only people are holding it in their wallets, and you're missing all of the people who are on Curve or Convex directly. We still need to have like the true holders number, which is basically like counting those people even if they're currently staked in Curve or Convex.
Yes, that's a very cool observation. Thanks. That was just the thing I was about to say. That probably the increase of the wallet number over 2 million was, somebody exiting Curve or Convex and just holding their OUSD. And yeah, we definitely would need that breakdown. I wanted to let's talk about that a bit later on the last graph. And here are the average and median numbers. Median looks kind of weird. I think I have to check what's going on here. And yeah, there are a lot of wallets, of course, included in these that have like 0 balance or something. So here I excluded all of the wallets that have 10 OUSD or less in them. And you can see that average and median become, I think, like a lot more useful, because average is like 47K and median is 267K right now, 267 OUSD right now, and here it's 23 and 30,000. So maybe this graph isn't as useful, and we might want to remove it at some point, because just like wallets holding nothing, or wallets that had some sort of transfer and have some sort of dust in them or something are really skewing these numbers and are like
Yeah,
nice.
if you just move that number up, even to 50 OUSD or 100 OUSD, I think it'd be a much more useful graph there.
Yeah, very good point. That'd be actually, I'll let me write it down. That'd be interesting to check if it's going to be like a completely different graph or a very similar one.
I think it'll have about the same shape, but a lot bigger numbers.
Yeah, it should. It should, considering that there were like 945 token holders that have between 0 and 100 OUSD, but I think this one doesn't exclude the one that have 10 or less. So yeah, I don't know. That number is not 900. Then it's somewhat smaller. Okay, this is just one of the first OUSD holder breakdown graphs that we had. It's completely analogous to this one above, but it's not a time series one, so it's like just the latest state. Probably very useless graph. I might wanna, but this one does include also the curve pool and the Uniswap pool. So okay, I won't delete this one because at least it's got that value to it. And then the graph that you already showed, Josh. Thanks. Yeah, the if we check the liquidity tokens on Curve Gauge, sorry, you can see that what share of them comes from convex, and you can see that it's like the majority of it, and I think I might have written down this on Discord at one point or thought that I did, but I'm not sure how to. I did like a quick check how we could break down, the convex holders, but I think we need more insight into this like massive 375 million. Half of that is OUSD, obviously. Amount of LP tokens and who holds them. I saw there was like some voter lock contract, but I'm sure we can get to the contracts and to the amount of tokens that each of them hold. So maybe if Daniel, you already know how that works, or somebody knows, I can give
I
some.
can send you I can send you the smart contract addresses to look at. Basically, we need to sum up the holders on 3 different contracts, right? So OUSD holders is part 1. Part 2 is people who are on curve but not convex, and then part 3 is how many people are in convex. And we sum those 3 numbers up, and that gives us a true number of holders for roughly of OUSD. We could do the same thing for Uniswap if we wanted, but there's not really any other LPs there besides us, so that's probably not worth the time.
Yeah, I didn't spend like a lot of time in it, but I was hoping that I would be able to see some sort of. I would get to some sort of convex contract and just be able to see the amount of tokens, like wallets are holding, but it wasn't as obvious to me. But yeah, I don't want to waste time.
I'll send you the link.
Nice, thanks. So yeah, and I will be including these. I'll be including this into the landing page. Currently, they're kind of like awkwardly placed in a link here. So yeah, it's going to be included in this page. And of course, if somebody thinks of anything else aside from like, thanks Daniel, that you said that we should make that cut off different than 10 OUSD, and other than the idea of how to break down this convex part of the graph. If you have an idea of any other breakdown that you might want to see, feel free to DM me or just write in Origin Dollar, like engineering or discussion channels. And that would be it, I think.
Amazing work, Doman. Thanks so much. Anyone else have questions or comments for Doman? One of the things that we want to get better about, Josh was kind of touching on earlier, is allocating funds to the various strategies in a more efficient way and being more proactive about that. But of course, we don't want to do it as a company. We want stakeholders in the community to be in charge of how those allocations happen. So Daniel has a proposal for how strategy allocations would be determined and a process for that. Want to talk through what you're proposing, Daniel?
Yes, and Josh, I see your comment on the timing. Just feel free to edit that document or edit that proposal and set it to that. I basically just wrote stuff down so that we would have a place to start from, and then everybody can see where the flaws are, and then we can change and go from there. So almost every part of it has been written so far, so that's good. So the basic idea is that during the week we'll have a thread in the Origin Dollar Discord that people can discuss strategy allocations with each other in, and what the considerations are, and then we'll use snapshot voting, much like Convex does, where people's votes, you can choose from an allocation of between our strategies for different stable coins, and then basically how much your vote, the final allocation kind of is weighted by how many OGN you have voting on that. So that gives us a simple way to get started. We do have, it's not efficient for us to be moving in or out of Convex too much, and there are some other things that are considerations that we should discuss in the Origin Dollar, in the discussion channel. But basic idea is we would start by first taking the allocation for Convex strategy from that vote, and then once all the funds have been allocated there, we would then allocate by individual stable coins, keeping the mix that we have, but putting, so based on the percentage of votes that Aave or Compound got. So that's roughly the idea. And then there's timing in the document on when that vote would run, and then the multi-sig would execute the transactions to make it us switch over to that. To make the multi-sig side of things easier and faster, so that it, instead of just staring at a whole bunch of bytes about what's going to be executed, we've built a tool for OUSD that takes a strategist action, bunch of hexadecimal, and turns it into what commands will be run, and validates each address in there that it matches the one that it's supposed to be, and shows you what it is. And if you can go in there and change a single number to something else in an address, and then it'll throw a big red flag at you saying this is not a trusted address. So that'll give us a lot more velocity on being able to make changes. And in fact, we've ran probably more strategist actions this week than we have in the past 4 or 5 months. So we're aiming to increase our velocity there. Yeah, so any feedback on that proposal on the voting process or different ideas?
Just to add some color on my thinking around the timing. I think we should line it up with Curve's schedule for when they do new emission schedules, because Aave Compound, there's not really any regular cadence to it, but the APYs on Curve and Convex will ebb and flow based on upcoming emissions and how people are voting on that. So if we sync up our schedule with that, people can see how the vote's going on Curve, and then can vote accordingly on Origin as well. So that would be my proposal, is just sync up with them. I also think we should probably move the instructions into our docs, and have a dedicated page on our docs for this, so that way people can read up on it and know what the standard process is, and it also means we can just link to that each week when we issue the new proposal, and then people can read all the details there. Probably throw in some disclaimers around, like, we still reserve a right to if something seems malicious, or if it only changes by like if it only changes by 0.5% weight, maybe we throw it out and don't waste the gas on it. So probably want to come up with a couple of rules and disclaimers on it, but let's try and flush that out in our docs. And then if there are no objections, I'd say let's kick this off at 7 p.m. Eastern today, run the vote for 48 hours, and then that has our vote ending the exact same time as Curve's window. So if there are no objections or improvements, let's plan on doing that.
Yeah, I think we plan on doing this. That sounds good to me. The one thing that this approach doesn't have is it doesn't allow like a proposal that takes into account the whole picture. It's just going to be, if one person thinks there should be everything over here and another group thinks everything should be over here, and those groups are basically equal, if there was such a situation where having enough funds somewhere really mattered, instead what we get is 50-50 of both. I don't see that as really a disadvantage at this point, but that is a possible future disadvantage of this style. This seems good enough to get going with and simple enough, and we should go with it. But yeah, one thought on that.
One logistical question is, who wants to be the owner of posting this every week? Being consistent is going to be quite important here. So I'm wondering if anyone wants to volunteer for taking that on.
I'm happy to do that. I'll probably need to follow up with Daniel on what that would look like.
I appreciate it. Consistency is my absolute weakness.
All right, cool. Anyone else have questions or comments about that process?
Well, one thing just on this funds allocation side that's interesting is if you look at analytics, we have very, very little USDT compared to everything else. Almost everything that's come in, well, there's been plenty of DAI coming in during the yield farming time, or during this liquidity campaign, but overwhelmingly we've been getting USDC. And in fact, if I remember right, I'm not looking at it right now, even though we have 273 million supply, there's only 13 million Tether backing that, which is a surprisingly small amount, and it's basically barely moved up during the entire campaign. That wouldn't be what I would have expected ahead of time. I'm not exactly sure what it means. It might be worth examining what it means, because it certainly means something.
It's because that's what Curve is most thirsty for. So if you look at pre-pool,
Right.
it's always hungry for more USDC, and so a lot of the increase in TVL has actually been due to arbitragers who are coming in, seeing the pool get out of whack, and then minting a bunch of doing a swap and then using the swap funds to mint a bunch of USD, and you're going to get the best rate on USDC every time, given how free pool is out of whack. But I'd say a large percentage of growth in TVL is actually coming from arbitragers, not from people minting directly. And that's because of a tendency of yield farmers to just swap on Curve, even if they get a worse price, versus going to the USD website and minting it directly. So that's something we've seen pretty consistently.
Yeah, well, in a sense, the arbitragers are just a secondary effect of people buying OUSD on Curve. They're just kind of a second step in that, so that they wouldn't be driving growth on their own. But one thing that does mean on the USDT side is that if we're converting, given that USDT is the rarest coin in Convex at the moment, or in 3Pool at the moment, if we're converting anything else into Convex, we're taking like a 1 out of 1,000 loss on doing that. So I'll post a discussion in the strategist channel later on that. But there's a percentage we'd be paying basically to put money in using something other than an evenly balanced, or a balance that matches what's currently in Convex. Curve.
For the voting, are we going to assume that are we going to have Curve DAI, Curve USDT, Curve USDC, or are we just going to say Curve and then assume we're going to add them in equal balance?
Because they're basically add an equal, and it's going to they get basically converted. It's not really any particular thing at the moment it hits 3-pool. It's now become a 3-pool LP token that could come out in any one of those three.
Okay.
And the other side of that is that we need to keep some percentage of USDT, or any stable, but some percentage of each to support withdrawals, basically in proportion as they are in our thing. So right now we have 1/4 of our USDT in not in 3-pool, and that allows, but in the default strategy of Compound, and that allows 1/4 of the total supply to be withdrawn right now without any strategist action to pull things out of Curve.
Yeah. Let's work offline on these docs to explain all of these caveats, so that the people who are voting have enough context on why they shouldn't just put 100% vote on Convex. And
yes, there's a lot of considerations to it. So yeah, we need to document it.
Sounds good.
We've got a little under 20 minutes to go, I think, and we got a few more things to cover. Josh or Daniel, did you want to talk about the on-chain governance requirements?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask on that. We have the voting side using the compound contracts makes sense, but what I don't think is in the compound stuff, and we've mentioned and seems to make sense that we need it, is some kind of vote locking or weighting votes by how much is tied up. And I was wondering if that was being tied into some other system you had in mind, Josh, or what you were thinking there.
I think all of it will change there is, instead of OGN being the voting token, it'll be the locked version of that being the voting token. So I think all of the governance stuff will be exactly the same. It's just a different token that's being swapped in.
Yes. So where's that different token coming from? Or that's a
separate project.
That's kind of what I was getting at that. But given the importance of we got to make. I guess I don't want any attacks on anything with not having any kind of time locker or anything. So when we figure that out, we'll need to figure that out before I think we go live with the actual handing control of the contract upgrades over to that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Okay, that's all I had there.
Cool. How is that going? Either Daniel or Tom, the on-chain governance project.
Pretty good from my end. I'm just building a UI around sort of Compound's Governor Bravo stuff. I'm just sort of using that as a framework until we figure out exactly what our contracts are going to be, if they're going to vary at all. I guess one question I sort of had was, if you check out Compound's governance, they have sort of a long-winded description about the governance proposal, which is not stored on chain. It's sort of a separate thing that they use an API for, I guess, to link that description to the actual proposal. So I'm sort of wondering what sort of features we need around attaching a long description or discussion to each proposal, and whether we need anything like that, or we just go with sort of like the raw instruction data decoded into sort of a nice format for people to vote on and have the discussion elsewhere, or we try and link it on chain to the actual proposal. Right now we have sort of like a single sentence description of what the proposal is, nothing long-winded there.
Go ahead, Josh.
I was just going to say I'm going to give that some more thought before responding. I hadn't thought through that yet, so I will give that some thought.
It's, from a usability point of view, it seems pretty useful to have the actual description on there. Obviously, from a security point of view, what the code is actually executing could be entirely different than the description. But if nobody else has screamed and hollered about it, maybe you can probably assume that it's matches. If Yeah, you better, somebody better check. But from a usability point of view, having a description seems like a big win. It makes the governance thing, you're on that UI and you see both what's being executed and you can see the rationale behind it. It's just kind of like the thing with code commits, you're supposed to put why you changed this code in your commit message. And so that gives you the why right there while you're voting, basically. So it seems very user-friendly, although I can see how it adds complexity to the front end and to have a place to store that, either in IPFS somewhere or, it's no longer just a client application at that point.
Yeah, and then there's sort of the IPFS, makes it immutable if we write they can't update the description after the fact, and how we link discussions to it. I think I prefer sort of the minimalist option.
I don't think we need to have discussions as a part of it necessarily, but the description is pretty convenient.
Yeah. Anyway, well, something to think about.
Yeah, there's no question the discussion needs to happen. Whether they need to be linked on chain, I'm not convinced. I kind of lean towards first gut reactions, keep it very minimal on chain. Let's not spend any more on gas than we have to, and then just have some sort of external system for discussion where people point to that on-chain proposal and discuss it. But I'll give it some more thought.
Cool. Thanks, Tom. Josh, you want to walk through DeFi integrations that have happened or are on the list?
Yeah, so we've made some progress, right? We got on Yearn, we got on APY.finance. We're in the process of issuing a proposal to Maker, which to include both OGN and OUSD as supported collateral types. So that's going to be, it's a bit of a long shot, but we're going to give it a go. Another one that would be really interesting for us would be Abacadabra, Magic Internet Money. What's neat about that is it's very much a degen play because you can use your LP tokens from convex pools to mint stablecoins, which allows you to do recursive things like take Magic Internet Money, and then go LP again to mint more Magic Internet Money, and you can just loop it around. And so if we were to get on Abacadabra, that would be very appealing to a lot of degens. So I think that's one we should go after. Obviously, Compound Aave are also very important for us, but probably be the actual native token versus LP tokens. What other one should we add to the list here? I want to make sure we're continuing to push forward on getting these proposals written and submitted to the different DeFi protocols. The clock is ticking, and we want to move as fast as we can on getting these innovations done. I guess maybe I'll just leave that as a invitation for people who want to throw out other integrations we think we should be pushing on. Coleman, thanks for writing up these proposals and coordinating a lot of this. Let's get started on Abacadabra, and let's if there's other ones we think of, let's get to those as well. Daniel, let's talk about your meta strategy idea.
Okay. This is the written up version of it. It's basically, in the 3-step process of here's the thing you do, something happens, and then you make a profit. This is step 1. And it's just an interesting thing that we could do, and I'm interested from people with more experience if there's a way to turn it into something useful. So there's a document linked in the document here, and I see Micah grabbing it. Maybe he's going to paste it in Discord. If not, I'm going to in just a second. There you go. But basically the idea is that if Origin dollar is mispriced in the curve pool, or either way from center, that you basically buy or sell it at a profit. The twist to that is that you're basically creating OUSD or destroying OUSD while always keeping it backed. But that allows you to very easily take any price changes in as a profit to the protocol itself. It also allows you to basically get twice as much liquidity in the pool for whatever the stables you're actually putting into the pool. If there's so that the buying and selling at a profit probably is not enough. Well, it could be enough to be making a profit considering how much the arbitrageurs are jumping in here these days, but I don't know if that's probably not enough to be a long-term profit. So the question is really, is there a profitable long-term strategy that matters to us from having our own supply of LP tokens in the OUSD curve and convex pools?
Thanks for writing this up and looking forward to reading over that. Have you done any modeling around what you expect the changes would be as far as yield or risk or any other metrics we care about?
On the risk side, I think it's good, and I have spreadsheeted out the results of mispricing, and we win every time, which is fun to see. But then I realize it's basically nothing that Curve or Tether couldn't be doing. So from a risk point of view, I think it's good. I've not modeled out or even really thought about how it would be profitable.
Classic Daniel, the pessimist.
Yes.
Hey Daniel, just wondering, did you resolve that? I think we stopped in the middle of discussion. If I think on Discord, if in case there was like more stable coins than OUSD, and then we burned OUSD, and if I remember correctly, like the total amount on Compound, if we were to borrow from Compound, I think that was your case, was at the end lower.
Yes, that works out great because people have actually been selling their OUSD at the same time into Convex in order for there to be a price difference. So it does work out. Yeah.
Right. Okay, cool.
So this one's just in there for people to read in if anybody has a brilliant idea during the week.
Great, thanks for writing that up.
Back to you, Micah.
Thank you. Yes, I was trying to find my mute button. So that covers, I think, all of the discussion topics. I noted a couple of open governance proposals, one dealing with the OGN buyback ratio, the other a D-shop concern. So take a look at those if you haven't already and cast a vote. Was there anyone who wanted to say hello, introduce themselves, let us know what you're working on, what you're excited about, how you learned about Origin, that sort of thing? If so, feel free to unmute and interrupt me at any time.
Yeah, hi, I'm Lillian. So, I'm currently an intern at Origin since October. And then I've been working on I've been helping the Chinese community, and now I'm working on the list of USD holders. So I've filed around like 300 of the addresses, and then I looked and searched for their behavior profiles so I could file like how much USD they owned, and then what kind of coins they use, and then what kind of farmings and NFTs and like centralized exchanges they use. And I also found some social media profiles for them, and I also updated since there's a few changes after I started it, and then I found like more social media profiles now. And also I've been working on the other list about the multi-sig wallets. So I'm trying to see like how many like different other multi-sig wallets that are sitting on like they're holding a lot of stable coins, but I cannot find like what kind of organization are them. But I can find like a list of them who are holding a lot of coins. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks for being here. It's great to have you. If there's anything I can do to help with that list that you're putting together, let me know.
Perfect. Actually not, but I'm always happy to help with anything if you guys need any help.
Yeah, it's thanks for doing that, Lillian. It's great to get those insights and have a better understanding of who these people are who are participating in OUSD. It's helpful to start having some sort of sense of who these people are, what their trading behavior is, what sort of stuff they're into, versus just being anonymous wallets that we know nothing about. One idea for you, Lillian, is you're thinking about, who are the, how do we find the DAOs or the crypto projects that have large amounts of stables that they, could be deploying into OUSD. We tried starting with Gnosis Safe and going down a list of the largest Gnosis Safes and then seeing if we can figure out who owns them. Since we haven't had too much luck with that, let's try from the other direction, which is let's identify a list of crypto projects and DAOs, figure out what they're where they're holding their assets, and then see if we can identify them that way. So maybe just start from the other direction and see if we get any further on finding some of those potential holders for OUSD.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for saying hi. Was there anyone else who wanted to introduce themselves or just bring up any other topic that we didn't cover? See a lot of muted microphones, but feel free to come back some other time. You're always welcome to say hello. Speaking of other times, I wanted to confirm that we are going to meet same time, same place next week and the following week. So that would be the 20th and the 27th, with Christmas being the 25th and falling on, what is that, a Saturday? Yes.
I'm good for both.
Me too.
Cool.
Sure.
All right. Well, I will be there as well. There were a few action items from last week. I think most of them are for me and Daniel. So I will do my part. Oh, Doman is on several of them. Thanks for updating those. So I will update mine. And then Daniel, you actually took care of yours too. So it looks like I'm the only one who's slacking there. Any other closing thoughts before we go?
Yeah, my action items had like answers for Josh and did Josh just leave? And
He did indeed.
Frank?
I'm
But
back.
since nobody, okay. So Josh, I think you were asking if I think you were asking about the collaboration. Yeah, there's none aside from forking queries and dashboards. And Frank was asking about if there's like an API, and the documentation proudly states that there is a CSV download, but not yet an API. So sounds like they wanted to make it like a consolation prize, but it's not really one. But yeah, that's all.
I think the embed capability is great for both them and their users. So I'm happy with that.
Yep.
All right. Well, if there aren't any other things to add, then we will see you same time, same place next week. Until then,
Have a great one. Laters.
Thanks, everyone.
so long.
Amazing timing, Micah, ending it by 9 p.m. sharp.
Hmm?
I'm just saying amazing timing that you're ending it exactly on 9 p.m. Sorry, my hour, 9 p.m. I don't know what's your but we ended the meeting sharp on the minute, like at the end of the hour.
Almost.
Yeah.
We're 40 seconds over now, so I'll see you somewhere else. Goodbye.
All right. Bye.